Hey guys, it's Joe from American Trucks, and today we're going to be taking a closer look at the Barricade HD off-road front bumper with LED fog lights, fitting all 16, 17, and 18 Silverado 1500s. Now, this is going to be a great option for you if you're looking for a budget-friendly yet off-road capable front bumper that also comes with a bunch of added features, mainly those extra LED fog lights. So what do we have going on here with the Barricade HD off-road? Well, first of all, let's dive into what this thing is made out of, and it is some heavy-duty 5/32 inch steel plate. It's finished in that dual-stage black powder coating, which is not just there to add to the looks, albeit if you were going for the blackout look, this is going to match perfectly, but it's also going to serve as a layer of protection against the elements. Now that 5/32 inch steel plate, that's going to be a great buy for you if you plan on doing any off-roading. If you plan on using your truck at the work site, this is going to provide a lot more protection than that plastic and chrome front bumper would. And we're going to get the two side by side in just a second here to point out the key differences between the two. But safe to say, this is going to be a lot more durable on the front end of your truck. Now, not only was this designed with durability, but also utility when you're off-roading. Again, we're going to put the two bumpers side by side in just a second here, but you can already tell just how much this tapers up on each end, and that is designed with approach angle in mind, and that is really going to help you out. In order to go over something, you have to get your tire up onto it first, and that taper up at the ends is designed to help you do that. In order to get the most out of the approach angle though, just wanted to note that you'll probably have to remove that support beam as well as cut away the liner for the wheel well. Now, one of the biggest features, if not the biggest feature for this front bumper, that's going to be the two included 3-inch 5-watt Grille LED fog lights. Now, this is going to be a great option for you to add some more utility to the front end of your truck, especially if you own a Silverado similar to this one. It didn't come with fog lights in the bumper. This is a way to not only gain that functionality if you don't have it, but if you do have fog lights on your truck, this is going to improve them as well. These are going to be a nice bright white, leaning very, very slightly toward the blue side. That's going to give your truck a nice modern look, and these things do throw a bunch of light. They're also IP67 rated, polycarbonate lens, aluminum housing, standard stuff on there, really high build quality, and that's more abuse than it should ever see on the front end of your truck. On top of all that, they're completely plug and play, so no wiring knowledge necessary to get these lights up and running in your Barricade HD off-road front bumper. If you are looking to take it a step further though, Barricade definitely has you covered. You can see this section here with these grates, that's removable. So if you do want to put a light bar in there, you can fit a 20 in the center section, or you can take these side sections out as well and go up to a 30-inch. That's not the only spot you can put a light bar though. Up on top, you can mount one up here. This will fit up to a 32-inch. All the brackets you need and hardware will be included in the kit. We'll show you what that looks like in just a second here. On top of those, you could take this again another step further with the optional skid plate from Barricade. That's going to add a little bit more off-road protection, and there's also an overrider hoop that would go over a light bar if you do want to mount one up here. What I believe really sets this bumper over the top though are the factory features that you do keep. Now, you are going to keep your front plate mount. You can see these two pre-drilled holes right here. There is a bracket included in the kit if you do need to run one of those, but more importantly, you get to keep your tow hook. So if you do plan on doing any off-roading, which this is definitely a bumper that's capable of doing that, you get to keep that recovery point in the event you do get stuck or need to pull something out. Now, one thing I do want to mention, and I do think this is worth mentioning, if your truck is optioned with proximity sensors across the front, this will not allow those to poke through, so you will effectively lose that option. But with that said, I think all the other features on this bumper more than make up for that. So moving right along here to pricing, this is gonna drop right around that $750 mark, and you are getting a lot for your money there. That would be a fair price to pay just for the bumper, but for something that comes with included LED lights and a wiring harness, you're getting one heck of a deal here. The install isn't going to be too bad either. Definitely a 1 out of 3 wrenches on our difficulty meter. This thing is a little bit heavy though, so you might want to have a buddy and a case of beer on hand. Should take you at most though about 2-3 hours to get this fully hooked up and wired. So without any further ado, let me show you what tools you'll need and how it's done. Tools required for this install are going to be an impact, U-joint, extension, 4mm Allen key. I put mine on a ratchet. If you don't have that set up though, the kit does come with some Allen keys for you to use. A basic wrench set ranging from 10mm all the way up to 18mm, trim panel removal tool, needle nose pliers, and a basic socket set ranging from 10mm all the way up to 18mm. The hardware that holds our bumper on is actually underneath of the front grille, so we're going to remove that first. And the first step in doing that is getting off this big plastic radiator shroud right here. It's held on with a bunch of push pins. I'm going to use a trim panel removal tool to remove those. With all those removed, we can now pull straight up on this and get it off the truck. With that out of the way, it's going to reveal 4 10mm bolts right behind this chrome lip of the front grille right here. We're going to remove those and pull the grille off next. At this point, the grille is held on with a couple of body clips, so we're just going to give it a firm pull and it should come right off. So now we have clear access to the hardware holding on our bumper on top. Before we loosen that up, we're actually going to crawl underneath and hit some hardware on the bottom. It's 15mm. We're going to do that first so this doesn't fall on us if we save that hardware for last. So the bolt we're going to be loosening up is on this arm here. As you can see, our bolt is pretty much new. It's a 17mm. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be a 15mm from the factory. And we're going to do the same thing for the other side. So now we can come back up top. There's 4 18mm bolts holding the bumper on now. We're going to remove the 2 on top. There's 2 in the middle that are a little bit sunken down, so I have the extension on the gun to make those reachable. Now our bumper's completely loose, we can pull it straight off the truck. So now we can see these bumper mounting brackets here. They're held on with 3 15mm bolts. We're going to remove those on both sides. Now we can take our tow hook apart. This is held on with all 18mm hardware. One thing to note, this bolt in the front does go all the way through the tow hook, so you will need an 18mm wrench for that one. This one in the back threads right into it. Now we're going to do the same thing for the other side. So before we drop our new bumper onto our Silverado, there's definitely a few things we want to take care of on the table here. Mainly, we're going to be installing light bars. If you have them, you could use these brackets right here. If not, we're going to be using these filler plates to fill that gap in the middle. That's going to clean up the looks a little bit. If you need it, this is your front plate mount. You could install that now as well. And these LED light cubes that come in the kit, we're going to drop those in. And if you didn't have those, you bought this kit without the LED light cubes, you could drop in these filler plates as well. They're going to go in the holes on the side if you do need them. Now what we're going to start with here are the filler plates on this side. We're going to grab this big one for the middle, and then we're going to use the 10mm nuts as well as the button head bolts with the captive lock washers and flat washers on there to install these to the bumper. One thing I am going to be conscious of here is I'm going to put the button head bolt behind the actual plate itself, and I'm going to save the nuts for back here. So that way, if you can see through this grill right here, you're only going to see the top of the bolt rather than the nut with the stud. You can see I brought out the needle nose pliers to hold the nut still, simply because the area behind the mounting point here is just too small for my fingers to get into. You might have no problem with it, but this is a way that I've definitely have to do it. So now we're going to tighten all of these down, and to do that you're going to need a 10mm wrench and a 4mm Allen key. Now there is one that comes in the kit. It looks just like this guy right here, but in order to speed things up, I put mine on a ratchet. Now we're going to do the same exact thing for these two plates, which are going to go on the outsides. And we're also going to do the same thing for the other side. Before we drop our fog lights in, we are going to have to get these mounting brackets installed. Now that is pretty easy. If I hold it up like this, you can see one side has a notch cut out of it. You want that to face toward the front of the light, so we're just going to grab that and orient it properly and slide it in between the fins. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that straight back, and the idea there is it's going to provide a little bit of a slide. You can drop a nut in, and in theory, that fin is cut out to hold that nut still. So with that nut being held still, we could come in from the side with the bolt and thread the two together. Now once you have the thread started, you could use the Allen key included in the kit to snug that up. We're going to do that for the other side of the mounting bracket, and then we're going to do the same exact thing on the other light as well. So with the hardware in place, we can put our mounting bracket where it needs to be, and that can go off to the side. For now, we're going to do the same thing for this light as well. And again, you just want to make sure that notch is toward the front of the light. That's going to give you the range of motion you need. Then we could drop the nut down the fin and get the hardware started through the side of the light. And same thing goes for the other side too. So now we can take our light over to the bumper and drop it into our bracket here. In order to do that, we're gonna take the bolt and feed that up through the bracket we just installed. Now you can see the cutouts on there. That's gonna hold the bolt head still while we tighten the nut down. And we're just gonna get that started. Then on this side, lock washer and 13mm nut. Then we can align this and tighten it down with a 13mm socket. And obviously we're gonna do the same thing for the other side. We're gonna get that bolt through and then start it into the mounting point. You follow that up with the lock washer and 13mm nut. So now we're ready to install our new Barricade HD bumper. Again, your situation might be a little bit different here. If you have light bars you want to install on this thing, now would be the time. Same thing goes for the front plate mount and any of the other extras on the table. Now, before we put this on our truck though, I figured it would be the perfect time to stop down, put this next to our factory front bumper and point out some of the key differences between the two. Mainly, what makes this Barricade bumper so much better than this old factory bumper over here. Now, the first and most obvious difference between these two, it's gonna come in the looks department. We're ditching that plastic and chrome factory front bumper in exchange for some awesome black powder coat and off-road styling. Now, this thing doesn't have a 90-degree angle anywhere on it. I guess maybe the light bar cutouts and the fog light cutouts on the side, that in combination with that black powder coating on there really gives you that stealth fighter, aggressive off-road look as far as this new Barricade goes. It's a huge upgrade over the factory one in my opinion. So this thing has the looks. It also has the build quality and design to back it up. Compared to the factory one, again, a lot of plastic on here. This part is chrome that is made out of metal, but it's a lot thinner than our steel. This is 5/32 inch steel plate. That's gonna be a huge upgrade in terms of durability for the front end of our Silverado. Now, our Barricade bumper was also designed with off-roading in mind. You can see just how much the ends on this thing taper up compared to the factory bumper. This has that really square profile on the sides of it. That's gonna hurt your approach angle. This is going to drastically improve that. And we all know in order to go over something, you need to get your wheel up onto it first. And this bumper is gonna be perfect for that. We're also completely adding on brand new fog lights. Our Silverado wasn't optioned with them from the factory, so we're gonna get a little bit of brand new functionality with those lights. Again, these are gonna be an upgrade over the factory fog lights if you do have them optioned. These are gonna be a little bit more modern, gonna throw a little bit more light, and on top of that, the old ones are probably a little bit yellow. You got that standard halogen reflector style in there. These are gonna be that nice modern bright white, leaning very slightly toward the blue side. Now, one thing our new Barricade front bumper does not have, proximity sensor cutouts. So if your truck is optioned with those sensors, you will effectively lose that function, but this has some other features that more than make up for it. Again, if you wanted to run a light bar up here, you could run up to a 32 inch. You can run either a 20 or 30 inch in this cutout in the middle here. On top of that, there are some optional extras from Barricade that you can pick up as well, such as an overrider hoop that would go over top of that light bar right here, and a skid plate for the bottom. On top of that, we're also keeping some features from factory as well. We're gonna be reinstalling our tow hook so we can keep that as a recovery point. And if you need a front plate, again, I showed you the bracket a little bit earlier, but there are 2 pre-drilled holes on the bottom of this bumper for you to mount that up if you need it. The state we're in right now doesn't require that, so we're gonna skip that altogether. So now this bumper is ready to be installed. We're just gonna grab the 15mm hardware that we uninstalled off the plate on the ends of our frame rail earlier. We're gonna hold this up and get it in place finger tight. So now our bumper is on our Silverado, but before we tighten anything down, we're gonna rebuild the grille assembly here just to make sure everything is nice and lined up. We're gonna start with our grille itself, and this is just gonna click back into place. We'll secure it across the top with the 410mm bolts that we removed earlier. Now we can reinstall our plastic cover over the radiator and secure it with all the push pins. So now we can reach in where the tow hook is going to go in just a second here and tighten down the 15mm hardware. I ran this top bolt in just to hold this while we installed the grill. And again, that tightens down with a 15mm wrench. Just to align this, we're gonna push up and then tighten down. Then we're also going to reinstall this 15mm bolt on the side. And we're gonna do the same exact thing for the other side too. We're going to use the same method for the other side as well. But first, I'm going to get this bolt installed, and then we'll push up and tighten both. Now finally, we're going to install our tow hook, and we're going to start by pushing that into the frame, like so. And you can actually get this foam off of the tow hook if you want. I'm going to do that just to free up some space. So with the tow hook in place in the frame rail, you can see that hole right there is about to line up. However, we're going to be installing some new hardware here. Not only do we have a new bolt, but this support bracket is going to install to the bumper, and that's just there to give it some extra support. So what we're going to do is take that extra long bolt, push it through the tow hook just like that. Then on the other side, we're going to install a flat washer, lock washer, and nut. And then on this side, we're just going to swing that bracket up like that and then secure these two together with the hardware in the kit. Now, one thing you don't want to forget is the bolt on the other side that threads directly into the tow hook. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side and then tighten all of this hardware down. One thing you don't want to forget is this bolt. This goes on the other side of the tow hook and it threads right in. Once you have that done, we can tighten down all this hardware. Just like factory, our tow hook hardware is 18mm. And to secure that support bracket to the bumper, you're going to need a 16mm wrench, socket, and possibly a U-joint. Now we're going to do the same thing for the other side. So now we're going to do some wiring. We're going to start with our positive terminal here. First off, we're gonna loosen up that 10mm bolt and slide on our positive contact. Once we have that in place, we can tighten that back down and do the same thing for negative. So next up, we're gonna mount up our relay, and you can probably guess by what I have in my hand, there's really not a great spot to hard mount this at. That's okay, we're gonna zip tie it. This mounting tab right here looks like a ground, but it's really not, so you can put this anywhere you want. And where we're gonna go is on the underside of this lip right here. And we can tuck the rest of that slack down next to the battery. Two things left for us to do. The first thing we're gonna do is handle these plug and play connectors right here. These are nice and waterproof, but they are not heat proof. So we're just gonna route these down the engine bay underneath of the truck, and we're gonna make sure to keep these away from any hot or moving components. Secondly, we're gonna take care of our switch. Now, this can be tricky to get it into the cab of your truck, but the easiest spot I've found is right here, this big rubber grommet. If you push that in, it should make a hole big enough for you to slide the switch through, and then you could push this back out to reinstall it and seal the cab of your truck. Now, once you have that started, you can come over to the other side, and that should pull right out of the driver's footwell, and you can mount this guy up wherever you want. It's got that adhesive back on there, so we're just gonna pull off that sticker. One thing you do wanna make sure of, this wire stays away from any of the pedals, and then you can press that in place wherever you want. Now, lastly, we can plug in our lights with those waterproof connectors, and then the kit includes a bunch of zip ties for you to wire manage this whole thing. Don't forget to plug in the other side as well. All right, guys, and that is gonna do it for me. It's also gonna do it for the Barricade HD off-road front bumper with LED fog lights, fitting all 16, 17, and 18 Silverado 1500s. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe for more like this one. Keep it right here at American Trucks for all things Chevy.